What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. I've got kind of a different video for y'all today. We're going to be talking about the NBA and their ratings and stuff, because apparently ratings are just like down overall this season. I don't know. It's a whole thing. I've got a list of things on my phone that I want to just like talk about and discuss with you guys because look, I've been within it. I've been in the game for a little bit now, and I don't know. I just feel like I want to like talk about it if nothing else. And this is kind of going to be a bit of a different video than normal. I've got nothing else to pull up on my screen. This is really just me here. So if you want to skip to the part in the video where I actually start talking about like the low ratings and kind of my thoughts on it, just go check like the chapters or stuff that I've got on here. You can just slide your little finger across, but if you want to understand why I'm doing this, then whatever. But basically, I want to try like a kind of a new type of video with this because like I don't feel like I need to have something on here. I think this is the type of video where this is like you're doing a chore or something, or you're at work and you can kind of just listen to it in the background. I don't need to put something up on the screen. It's funny when I make these videos, I often think about, or I try to think about, what is my audience doing while listening to these things. Feel free to leave me a comment down below. By the way, I respond to all of your comments. You guys know that at this point, but I find it interesting to think about like, hey, what would I be doing when I'm listening to like a basketball like podcast or video or something like that? And I always find that I'm like doing some sort of chore or something like that, or I'm working or doing something else, and I just kind of have it on in the background. And so I feel like that's kind of what this video is here. So apologies if the camera gets blurry at some point or something like that. This is kind of just going to be me talking more than anything else, and I don't know, we're just gonna have a discussion about low ratings and everything, so don't expect some sort of visually stimulating thing to do while you're eating food or something else. This is just gonna be me talking. But anyway, let's start talking about the NBA and their low ratings. All right, so at this point, I feel like we've all seen like an article or something, or you've gotten some sort of Bleacher Report update, something along those lines that said like, hey, NBA ratings are low right now, right? These are some of the lowest that we've had to start the regular season in a long time. And I know the Christmas Day ratings were actually like really, really good. They were up like 88% or something like that, which I still don't think they touched NFL numbers. Like, yes, basketball's a more global game, so technically they get more viewership eyes that way overall, but like American numbers, it's always going to be a football country at the end of the day, right? Like that's just kind of what we are, and that's fine at the end of the day. But why are ratings low? And I've just written some things down here. Like I really took a little bit of time, and I was just like, why could this possibly be, and what are my thoughts about it? So the first thing I wrote down is the season's long. Like 82 games is a long season, and we traditionally see that the beginning of the NBA season people don't really tune into. Like up in like Christmas is really the time where people kind of start to lock in on the NBA again, right? It's like, okay, Christmas Day's happening, there's going to be some NBA games played, and look, ratings were really good on that day, and then usually ratings kind of pick up after that because the NFL season's starting to slow down and everything, right? College football is dropping and stuff, so that's part of it. It's a long season, but I think there's kind of a deeper meaning in it, and that's something to do with like attention span. Like I'm 25 years old at this point. I'm a younger person, I suppose, and I know that a lot of the people like just below me in age, I know a lot of us have talked about like brain rot and the lack of attention span for younger people, but I truly do think that that's a thing. I think the full game is just too much for people to watch at this point. Funny enough, I still do a lot of like help with recruiting with certain teams and like certain colleges and stuff, and they'll like run players by me and stuff. And in full transparency, like I'm trying not to sound like an old head with things, but I feel like the average basketball player is just like not as good as they used to be. Like there's just so many like soft skills that aren't being learned and translated and stuff. And I've talked to a lot of like sports psychologists about this, and other coaches and sports science people, and a lot of people attribute that to the fact that kids growing up nowadays don't watch full basketball games. They grow up with highlights and small snippets of things, right? Because that's what their attention span can handle. So they're watching just Trae Young step backs, or just Jalen Green dunks, or just Curry doing like a shimmy running down the court or something like that. And whereas like when I grew up, like I just kind of watched the entire basketball game, and so you start to pick up on other little nuances of things, right? So like I learned how to dribble with my left hand, finish with my left hand, do a backdoor cut, V cut to get open or something like that. Whereas this generation is very, very like skilled. Like they've got some of the harder stuff down pat, but they can't do some of the easier things. And that's why you guys hear me kind of shit on players like a Jalen Green or like a Cam Whitmore or something like that. A little bit more, because I'm like, yeah, like these aren't complete basketball players. These are incredibly talented individuals, but at the end of the day, I don't know. It doesn't translate as well to the NBA, right? We see the inconsistencies all the time. So I feel like there's just kind of like this game is too long for people, and that's part of it, right? So people aren't tuning in necessarily to watch an entire game. They're tuning into the highlights of things. And I don't know. I find that to be interesting. So a long season, it's a long game. People don't want to watch the whole thing. It is what it is at the end of the day. The next thing I have on here, streaming is really, really complicated. This is more of even an NFL issue where they've just got streaming on like every app in the world, and that is just the fucking worst, right? That is the fucking worst. But the NBA is kind of the same thing, right? It's funny, like I grew up in a time where you had cable. I remember when HD became a thing and you had to go to the second channel to go watch like the HD and stuff, and that was the whole thing. And then I was the one telling my parents like, hey, nobody uses cable anymore. You just get a streaming app. You just buy NBA League Pass or something like that. You watch it on the app or something. And we have Netflix now, and we have Hulu. Hulu's the worst. I'm sorry, Hulu. If you ever want to sponsor me, I'll say nice things about you. But it's just streaming's gone too far, man. I now have to have like 8 different streaming platforms. It costs more than cable ever did. We went too far. We went the wrong direction somewhere. But I feel like the accessibility of the games has become too difficult, because it's like a lot of money to go get League Pass at this point. Like, I do it still. I'm fortunate to be pretty well off financially, but I know a lot of people that just like they can't afford that shit, man. They can't. And look, I'll be the first to say, right, like we all know about the illegal streaming sites, right? We all know about them. We've all been on one of those .xyz sites or whatever, right? That's streaming the game, and like, so that impacts the viewership numbers in and of itself. Like, I wonder how many people are actually just watching it off of that because they don't want to pay for one of these apps or something like that. So I don't know. That's kind of another thing that I thought about. I already touched on people don't usually care about the NBA until Christmas. I think the media plays a little bit in effect. By the way, this category that I'm talking about are just like general thoughts on why ratings could be low, but I think the media has somewhat of a role with this. And what I've written down is the media dramatizes everything, makes players look like jerks a lot of the time. NBA is a player league at the end of the day. So I feel like oftentimes in other sports, and I actually have numbers to back this stuff up in some of the other work that I do outside of like my own company, but we see what we call passion point numbers to be in like certain industries. This helps like really big companies sponsor certain like players and athletes and teams and events and stuff. But in essence, when it comes to like football, baseball, hockey, like soccer, aka football for some of you over in Europe, they sponsor teams much more than athletes, because the team is what's important. Basketball is a really weird sport where the athlete a lot of times is bigger than the team in and of itself. So people really resonate with the athletes, and they're much more open. The NBA can encourages players to really show their personalities and to be involved and talk about things and be themselves, right? Have style, have flair. Like, they're a players league, and they really emphasize that. But the media really loves, because of that, to kind of turn it into reality TV, I feel like, at times. And so we end up hating guys like the Joel Embiids, right? Or like, I don't know if it's Draymond Green or Paul George because he has a podcast or something, right? I don't know, insert any player. And like, certain people just like love to hate on these guys when like they just don't know anything about these guys at the end of the day. I'm sorry for all of you at home that are listening. Just like, if you don't know something about someone and you're just reading about things online and everything, like, you can only have so much of an opinion, especially when it's just like, oh, this person said this thing in the locker room, or this guy thinks this about the team or something like that. It's just, I can't tell you, as someone that's been on the inside of this stuff, how annoying it is to listen to the media just about everything. Because look, I don't care what kind of sources these people have. Like, I know the Shams and the Wojs of the world, like, they've got their connections and they generally have a pretty good idea as to what's going on. But if you're not in that locker room, you just don't know. And so I think sometimes like all the drama of the NBA leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. I don't know. That's just kind of a thought that I had. I'm like, maybe that tends to turn some people off. Because I talk to the occasional person that's just like, NBA players are such whiny bitches about things and shit like that. And I'm just like, Have you ever actually heard someone like say weird stuff like that? I don't know. That's just me. That's just me. And moving on to NBA players being whiny bitches and stuff. The players don't play enough. That's a big thing, right? The injuries and everything. What do I exactly have written down? Players don't play enough. They get hurt. Mostly the injury thing. The players are soft. I have in parentheses. Yeah, no. I don't know what's going on with this. I haven't talked to like any like doctors or anything like that within the NBA about this. I really should, because I do have some connections, but injuries I know are up like 44% this season. I can't comprehend how athletes are better equipped than ever. We've got more technology than ever, but players are just always hurt. Like certain players are just sitting out for whatever, the Zions and the Kawhis, right? And Embiid. It's never ending nowadays. And I don't understand why. I don't know if we're just super careful with things or what. Like this is coming from a guy that had a pretty injury prone career. Like I got hurt a ton. Like I did everything I could to try to be on the court and everything. My body doesn't quite work, right? Like I got a bad back. I actually have like, you're supposed to have, what is it, 5 lumbar in your back? I have 6, so I have an extra bone in my back, and that kind of like messed up my back a lot of the times. But like you still just try to get on the court whenever you can. But why are injuries happening? Is it that the human body can only like handle so much power and force and stuff, and we're training people to be too good of athletes, and our bodies just quite literally can't handle it? Like we've hit the threshold and it's impossible. But I think it genuinely frustrates people, and the NBA has this reputation now of like the players just never play. The load management was like a huge thing. We're not really seeing like load management or anything too crazy this year. Like the Embiid thing, yes, like Embiid is his own case and everything, but like that's frustrating to every single fan, right? To just hear like that these guys aren't playing. Because here's my philosophy on it, right? Again, not a doctor, so you probably shouldn't take much into this at all, right? So maybe I shouldn't even say it, but like when I hear the thing about like Embiid's only going to play every other game or something like that, I'm like, okay, maybe you should just play him half the minutes then. If he can't handle playing 30 minutes one night to where he has to then sit out the next game, like, and I know it's just like a back-to-back thing or whatever, but like maybe you should just cut his minutes in half or something. I don't know. Like just he should be on the court if he's healthy. And that's, I don't know. It all goes back to the Kobe thing at the end of the day, where he said like, look, I think back to being able to go to one NBA game a year if I was lucky, if people could afford it, right? And shit like that. And I didn't grow up very fortunate myself, and I know I didn't get to go to a ton of games ever throughout my childhood. And like I didn't get to see Derrick Rose play once, and I'm a Bulls fan and stuff, and I probably went to a couple games growing up. Excuse me. I went to a couple games growing up, and each time that dude was hurt, and he was legitimately hurt, right? And that's one thing, but it sucks then when you can't go see your player. And when you hear about these guys and their load management, and people know how much money they make and everything, it's a whole thing. And now, do I think the players are soft? No, I can promise you for a fact they're not. These guys do want to be on the basketball court, unless they're like actively trying to be traded from like a situation or something like that. But these guys do want to play at the end of the day. And so I never like when I hear like players are soft and everything. It's like, okay, you try going throughout the grueling basketball season or whatever. And it's mostly people that played like middle school basketball and they couldn't fucking dribble with like their left hand and shit. And it just pisses me off. Funny enough, I always think back to this is a complete tangent. I remember some of the people I played middle school basketball with at times. And I grew up in a place that was pretty good at basketball, but there was one season, there's always that one season in like 7th grade where a bunch of kids just try out because their parents tell them they have to go play a sport, and they gave everyone like equal playing time. Like during the school season, AAU was different, right? The best players just play, and those kids didn't go out for that. But I remember one time I passed the ball to this kid that had never played before, and we were down on offense, and he ran the other way with the basketball, and I legit had to do a chase down block of him so he didn't go score on our own basket or whatever. And I was just like, I can't deal with these kids or whatever. But that's 7th grade me just being irrationally angry about everything. But that was funny nonetheless. So no, I don't think the players are soft. I think it's silly when people say that. It's just injuries are happening more and more and more, and our bodies just can't seem to keep up. So I don't know. Next topic. Star players are non-existent and not really living up to the mantle. And what do I kind of mean by that? LeBron, Curry, Durant. That's who I grew up with, man. That's who I grew up with. I think about the other faces of the NBA at that point. There was plenty of them. Like, I always think, like, Dwight Howard was probably the best center that I saw growing up. Like, I loved Derrick Rose and stuff, right? And then throw in all the other star players of that generation, right? There were so many more. Obviously, Kobe was a big name and everything. It feels like as the old guard is phasing out. And I'm not going to say anything anybody doesn't know, but the new guard just doesn't seem like they're established yet, right? Like, obviously, like, Tatum has won a finals now. We've got like Luka, who's at least made the finals now and stuff, right? It just like who's the face of the NBA going forward, right? Because like the Suns aren't that great. The Lakers are like okay right now. The Warriors aren't that great. Like the players themselves are still really really good. But what's going to happen once they're gone, right? Who are we leaning on next? And I feel like the first couple names that come to mind, right, are the Jokic's, who he's not a guy that wants to be advertised at all, right? We just see him in those funny, like, is it Hotels.com commercials with his pony and like Peyton Watson or whoever it is in that commercial? That shit cracks me up every time. My wife loves it too. But you got Jokic, who he doesn't really care to be the face of the NBA or anything like that. You go to like the Lukas. Kind of the same thing, right? Have you ever seen Luka in a commercial or anything? No, not really. I mean, he's really, really great and he's fun to watch. Same with Jokic, but that like Jokic is in a smaller market. Don't really get to see him a whole bunch. Like Luka, cool, right? Like he's gonna play great games. He's gonna talk a lot of shit. People still don't like all the complaining that he does at times. You talk about Shea, also in a small market. Thunder games like never on TV, even though they're like a lot of fun and stuff. And again, Shea, after his one commercial with Chet, should probably never be in a commercial again. But again, not the biggest like star to put out there. There's the Wemby, right? And Wemby isn't going to be in anything like too crazy. He's going to be fun to watch, and he's probably going to be one of those generational guys and everything. At least we hope so. That's awesome. Anthony Edwards is the obvious name. Like he feels like he's ready to kind of take up that mantle and everything. But the Timberwolves can't keep a good team around him already. We've seen already. They've already messed it up, right? And what are they going to do going forward? We hope that they have a plan and everything, but it's a whole thing. And like it looks like we got some good new players coming in next year and everything, but like what does this new guard look like? Again, Jason Tatum, cool. I don't want to be the one to bring up the whole Jason Tatum aura thing, but there is kind of something there about that, isn't there? Where it's like he doesn't feel like LeBron or Kobe or like I don't know, even like Steph and like those guys, right? It's just, I don't know, there's something off about it. Like what happened to the dogs and everything that we grew up really rooting for and everything. So I don't know, I feel like the league needs that in order to have some of that attention. And that kind of brings me to the next point, which is it feels like we don't have rivalries anymore. Like I grew up as a Bulls fan, just hating the Miami Heat with all my heart because the Bulls couldn't get past those guys, right? Like I know the Atlanta Hawks like hated playing the Bulls like every single year in the playoffs and like losing and stuff, and like that was like a fun rivalry and stuff. But like, you know, so many of the guys are like friends and stuff nowadays, and you don't really see like it get quite as like heated as like maybe it used to back in the day and such. But I feel like we need that. And like look at the WNBA, right? WNBA had its first like profitable season ever. It was a good year overall. As long as you didn't watch the finals, that was abysmal to watch. Sorry, WNBA, I'm rooting for your success. It's just that was rough. But what really kickstarted it all was Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, right? It was the Larry Bird and Magic Johnson effect. You wanted to see who was going to come out on top of those, right? You had really, really talented players that could handle the star potential that you can advertise. They're everywhere. Like no matter what, you wanted to pick a side between the two and see one of them win, right? There's all the extra discussions off the court and everything. It's fun, right? That's entertaining. That gets people interested. It's the drama of everything, right? This is the entertainment business at the end of the day. That's something that people have to remember. This is the entertainment business. And like, name an NBA rivalry at this point? Like you have the Celtics and Lakers, right? But it doesn't feel like there's like actual like beef at this point between them. Like as a Bulls fan, I couldn't tell you who like the number one rival is to play every single year. Like I don't know. I don't know who that is. It's just, it doesn't feel like there's rivalries or anything. Like football does a good job of making divisions important. Like at the end of the day, like, are you getting the best outcome in terms of finding the best team every year by making divisions as important as they are? No, but it inspires these rivalries, right? Because like twice a year, I have to watch the Chicago Bears lose to the Green Bay Packers, and I can't tell you how bad of a football fan I am because really, like as a Bears fan that never wins any games, sorry football fans that don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but like I literally live to see the Packers lose every year because I know the Bears won't win, so the next best thing is seeing the Packers lose. So I don't have that in the NBA, and I wish that I did. Like that just makes things more interesting. When I grew up playing basketball, the town next to me, and mind you, we had a very, very good basketball team. Like Division 1 players, like a handful of Division 2 players, right? Like good team. There was a top 20 player in the nation in the high school right across basically the town from us, and they had other like D1, D2 caliber players. Every single year we met them in the conference championship, and it was a battle. We would sell out the stadium and stuff, right? And like they would the city I grew up in and stuff, they'd move the game into a different place, and like you'd sell it out, and it was crazy, right? You had to wait in line for these tickets and everything every year. What's that game nowadays? I don't know. And I feel like we're missing kind of that entertainment aspect of it. The next thing that I want to talk about is just the game in and of itself, because I feel like there's an overarching topic of just like the NBA game itself is hard to watch at this point. So I don't always disagree with that. Like I'm one that'll tell you like watching NBA basketball I think is very pure for the most part. I think the average basketball fan probably can't understand why it's so much better, because look, I watch a lot of college basketball too, because my job has me watch a lot of college basketball. Watching college basketball as someone that knows how to play basketball at a high level is like shoving needles like just like into my body, right? It just hurts. It's not good. Like the game never evolves and everything, but yet people talk about college basketball in such a high light still. And why is that, right? Well, part of it is like the atmosphere and the energy and everything, because believe it or not, when you get a bunch of drunk 18 to 22 year olds in a stadium and they get all rowdy and people pay more attention to the game because that's what they're there to do, and they're not just like chilling after their 9 to 5 or something like that and watching a game like the typical like NBA fan is or something like that. Like it does create a different environment. It is more hostile. There's more rivalries in college basketball, right? Like when Duke and North Carolina play against each other, it's a whole thing. I was at the college that I was at, right? Our coach literally told us for our number one rival, the other the other D1 team in the state, they I'm trying not to give too many details away about where I was and everything. I think that, I don't know, that's just me. I don't like to give away too much stuff about that. Our coach literally used to say like it's over for you guys if you lose this fucking game. Like you guys are running so much the next day. If we lose to this team, you have no idea. I can't handle losing to this team, right? That's awesome, right? You live for stuff like that. I think it's amazing when there's stuff like that. But yeah, the college environment just is better, and the NBA doesn't quite have that environment always. Like you can go to a Bulls game and it's always going to be loud, right? You can go to a Thunder game, it's always going to be loud. You know the Sixers fans are going to boo you if things aren't going well, right? Like there just are certain things, right? I think Kings fans are really energetic and I really like their energy. Sorry for Mike Brown and everything. That just that whole situation. But generally, I feel like the average person at an NBA game just doesn't even recognize when something crazy happens in the game, and that just kind of pisses me off. So I don't know. Atmosphere's a thing, but talking about the actual play itself, too many threes and layups and free throws. Basically, people have figured out the game, right, at the NBA level. They're not messing around with too many of the other shots, right? I've seen dumbass people on ESPN be like, we just have to tell them to, who was it that was just like, just put a cap on how many threes they can make in a game. What the fuck is that idea? That's just so stupid. That's so dumb. I know those people just have to say things on those TV shows sometimes, but have some damn pride. Like, what do you mean? Like, so we're gonna cap things off and like you're gonna deprive me of like somebody hitting like 15 threes in a game or something at some point? Steph Curry, why not just go for it and stuff? So I don't know. I think that's idiotic. But yes, the game's a lot of three-pointers, it's a lot of layups, it's a lot of free throws, it's a lot of dunks, right? That's what the game is nowadays. We figured out the math. This isn't the same basketball game that was invented a long time ago where it was just people are going to do whatever they could do to put the ball in the hoop. We're smarter now, we understand math, and so the game has been figured out. Those are the things that we need to do in order to win games. Now, I think if you were to watch an average NBA game, you're going to see that there's a lot, and like you actually pay attention to it, right? Because again, attention span and everything. You're going to see there's a lot of intricacies that go on into this, and that's what makes me so excited about basketball, right? But I can't force other people to have that same interest in the intricacies of basketball as to how you get those three-pointers, layups, dunks, free throws, etc. But overall, yes, is the game going to be a ton better if we go back to banging in the post and the post hooks and everything? to where you know you're at the Y and you're playing with some OG, right? And he's like, "Have you heard about Kareem the Dream?" I just said Kareem the Dream. I'm so sorry. I'm sleep deprived. I'm recording this the same day that I woke up at like 4 a.m. and had to drive a couple hours. They always say, "Have you ever seen Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon and his footwork and the hook and everything that he'd have, the up and under?" I'm like, "Yes, I have seen the Hakeem highlights. I promise you, my dad showed me enough of those because I was above 6 feet tall, and he was like, 'Oh, you're gonna be a center,' and I was like, 'Hey, pops.'" I was I think I was 6'4" as a freshman in high school, and I was like, "Nope, pops, I'm playing point guard. That's what I'm gonna do." Like, do we have a bunch of guys bigger than me on the team? Not necessarily, but if I'm gonna go to college and do this, I'm probably gonna be a point guard or shooting guard. So let me play this, and I'm 6'5" now for reference. But so I'm glad I didn't try to become a center. But no. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I don't know, the style of play I don't think is as big of a problem as it is like the lack of, we're gonna say, lack of clarity with rules and stuff. So I kind of want to get into that a little bit more. Like, I've got other things on the list and everything, like the players don't try and everything. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. If you are seriously of the mindset that say that players don't try, like, yes, there's varying levels of effort and everything, but I promise you those dudes are out there. Like, nobody likes to lose. It's just a stupid thought if you think that. Like, are there guys that just like dog it sometimes? Does Julius Randle just kind of quit on plays sometimes? Yes. Does James Harden just do that sometimes? Yes. They're so good that, yes, they're able to get away with it sometimes. That's reality, y'all. If you're good enough at something, people will give you slack on it. Welcome to the real fucking world. It's just the average NBA player is going pretty damn hard every single play. And you're going to be like, well, how come Kevin Durant scores 40 points every day? Because all the dudes are so good nowadays. They all just make every single shot. If you are, for a perspective, and I said I didn't want to go into this too much, but like, if you put me alone in a gym, like, played pretty high level basketball, right? I'm probably going to hit 7 or 8 out of every single 3-pointer that I take, right? Pretty damn good, right? Pretty impressive. You get me into a game, it becomes like 3 out of every 4, right? Cool. Fair enough, right? NBA guys, they're making 99, 98 out of 100 shots. They just are. Like, that's how good these guys are. And the fact that they only make half of them or less in the game shows you how good of defense these guys are playing. So just relax on the effort thing. I promise you, like, those guys are trying. You just don't think they're trying because it looks like they're trying so much more at the college level, and they just aren't as good, and it looks that much harder for them to score. So just know that that's the case. But talking about the rules and everything of basketball now, that's something that I'm frustrated with. Like, I feel like the game is too hard to interpret nowadays for the average fan, and I feel like the game is favoring too much of the offensive player, and even more specifically the offensive guard. It irritates me to knowing that you can't bump into a ball handler, but as soon as you try to back someone down in the post, they're allowed to just like fight each other down there. I'm like, what the fuck kind of sense does that make? I have no idea. And I get they want to promote the scoring and do all of that. I think the average sports fan is smart enough to appreciate some good defense when they see it played. It is sick as hell when you see a dude like clamp someone up and get hyped and stuff like that. I grew up watching Jakeem Noah do that shit all the time. I loved it. It was one of my favorite things ever, right? It's what made me such a yeller and screamer when I played basketball too. But we need to bring back some defense, primarily hand checking. Like, I feel like it's time to bring hand checking back. I know it was taken out a while ago, but we have to give the defensive players something to work with. Like that, or we just can't be so ticky-tacky with like blocking fouls and other sorts of fouls. Like, we keep saying we're not going to let the offensive players jump in and initiate contact, and then because the defensive player was standing there like this and they didn't give him room to land because the offensive player jumped into him, that's a foul. Now that's the dumbest thing in the world. Like, it's just not a basketball play, right? Like, I have never played basketball that way, and I'm not trying to be some high and mighty guy that's, you know, never done that shit before, but like, I promise you never saw me flop in a game. Like, that's just not how I did things. Like, I'll take a charge, like, or something like that. I'll stand there and get knocked over or something like that. That's fine. But like, you never saw me like, this is kind of an interesting thing. Like, you know, when players go for layups and stuff and they end up like on the ground like every single time? I never ever did that shit, just because I was like, no, I want to be in the play the whole time. Like, I'd go up and I'd always try to land it. Maybe that's why I got hurt though so much more than the average person, because I was trying to land that shit every time, and I was always trying to dunk on someone. But that's just That's just me. But no, we gotta figure out the defensive rules and everything. Like, we have to bring some sort of defensive focus back to rules. I don't have a great solution as to how you do all that, but like, we can be reasonable, right? Like, we all can see when a guy's jumping into someone and initiating too much contact and shit like this. And there's, how many times do you see, just because of like certain arm movements and stuff, people just call fouls for things, and it's just like, oh, it's so annoying, right? It's so annoying. And I do think it's getting a little better, but I don't know. I feel like we have such a ways to go with it still. So I want to see that improved in some capacity. I feel like we could all agree that the game would just be better if they fixed defense and made the defense easier, right? Or just somewhat better, right? And then just making the rules like less unclear and stuff. We're bringing too many like little nuanced things into it. I literally have here, let's just play FIBA rules. Man, I think the FIBA rules are way more fun. I love that there's no like offensive goaltending in FIBA, so like that forces people to box out like a little bit more, right? Like, it could lead to more highlight plays and stuff. I don't know. I think like you should be able to be more physical with guys. I always think it's interesting when the NBA guys go overseas and the first couple of games they're trying to draw some of those fouls and stuff that they know what to do, and the FIBA refs are like, the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, it's a better product. It really is a better product. And so if you get the better players and the better product, I don't know, I feel like we could have some better things with that. So I wish that they would explore bringing in more of the FIBA rules and everything. The last thing that I have here is I just wrote down like new ideas ? What can we do? Because here's the thing, I never want to be one of those people, and you guys should never do this either. I'm looking into the camera for this one. I hate when people complain about things and they don't offer solutions in some capacity, right? That's why for each of these I've tried to talk about like ways to go about it to make things better. I cannot stand when people complain about things and don't offer solutions. I don't care if this is work or basketball or anything like that. Like, if I had like a teammate that'd be like, I just don't get the ball enough, I'd be like, okay, what the fuck do you want me to do about it? Like, shut the fuck up, go figure it out. If you want help figuring it out, I'll help you, but like, don't just come and complain to me about shit. So like, what can we do to make the NBA better? Because the NBA's trying, right? Like, they seem to be very aware of a lot of their weaknesses, right? Like, the NBA Cup they brought in. I like the NBA Cup. They were like, hey, the most boring part of our season is the first quarter of it leading up to Christmas. They added the NBA Cup. I love the Cup. The Cup is fun, right? That's super cool. I've got some ideas for how to improve it, and we'll talk about that. But like, they added the playing games. I think the playing games are fun. They're like, hey, March Madness, the whole fun of it is the one and done of it. So they kind of added the one and done of it into the NBA. Cool. I think that's awesome, right? I've loved the play-in so far. There's some people that are like, too many teams are in contention and everything. Great. Incentivize teams to go make a little bit more postseason money. That's fine. It disincentivizes tanking and everything. Cool. When it comes to the Cup, the one thing I don't like about the Cup is how spaced out all of it is. Like, I don't like that it's like twice a week kind of thing. And then like there's other games just happening in the meantime. I feel like what should happen is it should literally be like, okay, we're going to play 15 games to warm up for the season, right? And then we're into the Cup. Like, it's just predetermined Cup schedule, and we're just going to play the Cup. Like, we're going to play the qualifying games, and then we're straight into the tournament. Like, that's how I want to see it. And maybe it is more of like a single elimination tournament or something like that. And then whoever falls out, that's who you play for your next game or something like that. Like, yada, yada, yada. We could figure out the finer points of it. But I want it to be a sequential thing, so it's like, all right, the NBA Cup's on right now. Like, let's see what team is making it or something like that. And then it could be cool if like the Detroit Pistons or insert bad team like the Washington Wizards like win a couple games as like a 16 seed or a 15 seed like in college and shit like that, right? I don't know. Don't you think that'd be more fun? So it'd be like every day we're looking at like a big bracket or something like that. People love brackets. Everybody likes filling out brackets and everything. You can gamble on it. It's great. I don't personally gamble and everything. Gamble responsibly, please, if you're going to do it. I've never sports bet in my life unless you count $20 to buy into like a fantasy football or fantasy basketball league. But that's just me at the end of the day. No judgment. So I feel like that'd be a better way to utilize the Cup. I think that'd be fun. I think that's a way to kind of get people interested in it and kind of see what's going on. I don't know. People are still probably going to watch more football at the end of the day, but I think that that's a better structure to it. And now I didn't write down a ton of other ideas for how to improve things, but I can tell you as somebody that is both been a player and a coach, and not at the NBA level player or anything, obviously not even close. But I think one thing that really pissed me off consistently are the fans at games. Like, I don't like how societally now we've got people that think that they can just go up to like celebrities and like famous athletes or actors and actresses and they can just like treat them like zoo animals. Y'all know what I'm saying? Like that one Jason Kelsey video of that guy calling Travis Kelsey a not so nice term, and then Jason Kelsey like smashed his phone. I loved that. I cheered so hard for that. But I don't like when like fans like chirp players like personally and shit like that, because I'm like, okay, like, yeah, you're all the way over here on the bench, like shut the fuck up. Like you what are you gonna do if that guy's like actually up in your face, right? So I truly think, and I know this would never happen, but I would love, I can't tell you how much I would love if they implemented this rule. You're allowed to, every NBA player is allowed to fight one fan per year. You get 20 seconds to do what you got to do to that fan during the game. Just how awesome would that be for highlights and everything? I don't want to condone violence or anything, but I'm condoning a little bit of violence. Like, could you imagine, right? Like, a fan is just like chirping these dudes, right? And then Kevin Durant just says, all right, you know what, fuck this shit. Like, I'm beating the shit out of this dude or whatever. And that fan's like, God damn, Kevin Durant used his one fight on me. And like, they got like their ass kicked or something like that. Like, and here's the thing, like, most people just can't take one of these dudes, right? They just can't. And so it'd be so funny. One, it would shut up the fans a little bit. And like, yes, like, it would cause so many problems, but just like, live in my fantasy world with me for a little bit. That'd be so funny. Could you imagine being at one of those games and some dude like just like a couple rows down from you just like keeps chirping at like, I don't know, like let's just say it's Marcus Smart or something like that, right? Because I'm thinking about that time when he was in college and that dude was like chirping him and saying shit. And they're like, Marcus Smart, like, I woke up next to your mom, something like that. And he's like, the fuck you say? And he comes in and Marcus Smart just starts whooping his ass and security can't come get him for like 10 seconds or something like that. That'd be awesome. That'd be an awesome game break. Put the highlights on there on Instagram and TikTok. Shit goes viral, right? And then Marcus Smart not allowed to fight anybody else the rest of the season, right? That's your fight. You got to use it. And they're interviewing him in the post game. They're like, yo, why'd you use your one fight on that guy, right? It's endless entertainment at the end of the day. Is it a little primitive? Yes, but at the end of the day, that's my idea. And I just kind of wanted to throw it out there, and I thought it was kind of cool. But anyway, I don't know, y'all. Ratings are down and everything. I truly think a lot of it comes down to the fact that people just don't want to watch as much anymore. Of like full basketball games. It's harder to get access to them. Shit gets more and more expensive. YouTube TV's raising their prices again. They've got everything on multiple streaming platforms. But then I think a lot of the narratives around the NBA are a big problem as well. But I don't know. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments below. You guys know I respond to all of them, and that's the whole thing. And hey, as we're going into the new year and everything here, give me video ideas and stuff like that. I started this whole YouTube thing as like just something to do with some extra time that I had, and funny enough, I have like no extra time now, so I really have to set aside time to do this. But I was like, hey, I'm missing coaching a little bit and I want to stay connected in basketball. Maybe I'll do something like this. It could be fun. And I'm like a year and almost a half later, and you know, we've got a good following and stuff like that now. The Discord is popping at all times, and I just get to talk hoops with all of you guys now, and I think that that's so cool. So as we go into the new year and you know, I try to set goals for myself, like, give me some ideas of what you want to see out of me and stuff. And I know this was kind of a different video and everything, but just curious what you guys think about it and going forward. I don't foresee myself doing this a ton, but maybe every once in a while or something like that. But seriously, thank you guys all for a wonderful year of being on YouTube and just talking hoops with me and everything. We're going to try to be consistent with this whole thing as I continue the YouTube experiment and everything to see where I want to take it long term and everything. But seriously, appreciate each and every one of you, even though I don't see your faces. No parasocial relationships here. I don't believe in that shit. But seriously, appreciate you guys. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow for a more regular video. Thanks so much. Bye.